Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of The Joy of NFTs. I'm really excited for this show. We got some really incredible 3D artists on this episode. But if it's your first time watching, this show is inspired by Bob Ross' Joy of Painting, where he creates a live painting on every show. Just like that, we are going to have artists come in and show a glimpse of the creative process by showing a sketch of a piece that they will later mint. This show is meant to open up the conversation between the artists, the collectors, and other members of the NFT community. And I hope that you enjoy. So let's get started. Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited to have you. So, for those who don't know who these amazing people are, we have Lucas, who goes by Untitled Army, actually. That's your artistic name. And then Roel here, he goes by No Paradigms. Thank you so much for joining. Um, I will leave time for you guys to say a little bit about your background. I know a lot about you, but I would love to hear from each of you just a snippet of where you're from and what kind of art do you do.
Okay, who
Okay,
goes first?
you can go.
All right. So I'm a 3D artist. I really like working with characters, making new characters, trying to recreate characters that already exist, try to give my own spin. Um, I'm originally from Mexico, but now I'm in Texas. And I don't know. I've been doing the 3D for 3 years now, I think. For like every day working on that and making that my living, I guess.
Making that your living for sure. Lucas, what about you?
Well, so I'm from Brazil originally, but I live in New York. I've been living here since 2010, so it's been like 12 years. I have a background of I did like design school. I worked a couple of like a decade on advertising, and I quit my job in 2017. That's when I had already like an art parallel like love for illustration and stuff. But around 2017 was when, after I quit advertising, when I started to actually focus on my art, and where like my whole like thing kind of like started based on like a lot of things that happened to me on that year specifically that kind of like powered me to start like creating my art. But that's kind of like a summary.
Yeah.
um,
And let's touch on that because I think you both have very interesting backgrounds and also similar art in the way that you both have like a character that you put out a lot. Lucas, you have this very um, emotional character, I would say, that takes you from different types of themes, and sometimes in a human form, sometimes in a non-human form. And then Roel, you have your bears that you created. So I would love to take it back to when you started creating those characters. How did do they have a name? I don't know if Lucas yours have like a specific name, but we'd love to hear that story from both of you.
okay. Well, for me, basically, like I've been like traveling between a lot of like styles. What happened is in 2017, I went through a divorce, and that
Mhm.
was like a hard time in my life. And it was a moment where I kind of reconnected with drawing again, like a lot. Like, so I started this project of drawing one thing every day, and
Mhm.
I would go to a coffee shop and draw whatever
Mhm.
without judgment, whatever come to my mind. And I started to draw, and after a couple of months, I started to feel there was some sort of like voice or something kind of like forming and the character was kind of like a simple form that sort of like my thoughts were kind of like landing, where I could actually articulate ideas and things I was feeling. And the fun is like it doesn't seem to have an end, because it's like a free form. The character I have doesn't have a name, because it's basically myself
Mm.
there, and it kind of like shapes into whatever is happening in my life. So there will be characters that are like really weird, some are fun, some are like kind of like very dramatic or like emotional in a way, but they all are like feeding from things from my life, and that's kind of like how they go about it. Yeah.
I
I love
really
that.
like I really like Lucas's art. It's so amazing, especially when he does the sketch and then the 3D
Sketch and
render.
render.
It's like
Yes.
it's
He's like the
it's
king of
amazing.
it, of
Yeah,
sketch
it's
versus render.
like the render looks
Yeah.
exactly like the sketch. Like it's just I don't know. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And for me and the Bears, so I was doing commission work mostly, and then I was like I need a character, I need a something that people recognize me for or by. I don't know how you say it, but I'm a really big fan of Cause, so I really like his companion character, and just how simple but different it is at the same time. So I thought a teddy bear is like the most simple thing that you can imagine. It's like the basic toy that every little kid has. So I was like, what can I do to a bear to make it familiar, but also kind of weird, kind of like you have to like look at it twice. So I was like, 4 arms, like that's just I don't know. This is the first thing I thought, and I did it, and I liked the silhouette, how it looked. So that's just what I went for.
And you've created kind of like a whole world around this bear's character. That's really,
Yeah,
really
I
interesting to
I
see.
really want to make like a whole universe, and I mean, but I think that's gonna take years and years to like actually see it realized and people to understand it. But I
Hmm.
think just like laying down the mythology and stuff like that for in the future, like when I start building the actual like story and stuff, for it to all make sense and all have origin,
Yeah,
and I don't know, to be believable in the world, whatever happens in the renders or the animations that I make in the future.
for sure. I would like to add Max Carlin to the conversation. He is actually a collector and builder. He has actually collected some of Lucas' work. So, welcome, Max.
Hi.
Thanks for joining. and so randomly, but I saw that we had that in common. And I also wanted to get your take on what caused you to what attracted you to Lucas's piece. So let's start there.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me, and it's great to finally. I've DM'd Lucas before. I didn't even know that was your name, but it's great to finally see your face and meet you. And
Yeah, nice to meet
and
you.
so but so I bought the piece that I bought is called like a fall to love.
Hmm.
And it's this character kind of as a waterfall. Um,
Hmm.
and it's very kind of fluid and it's coming from like a desert almost. It's very like right. So there's a desert and there's a big cliff and there's this waterfall and there's this little dude at the top, um, in a green hoodie, and he's looking down at the face of the waterfall, which is kind of the face is made in the right. It's like a little pond essentially where the waterfall is coming from, and there's a little face there that is the main kind of character of the image, and then there's the little green guy. And I don't know. I mean, I've been investing in NFTs, collecting in them since March, February even. Um, and I mean, Untitled Army was one of the first artists that caught my eye, and so part of it for me was, I mean, and this was my favorite one I'd seen him make in a very long time. But I mean, it's just about the characters, the playfulness of it all. Yeah, I don't know. I've always just been very drawn to kind of. I love the natural and the playful aspects of it.
Yeah.
And
And that is like a perfect example of how this character that you've created, Lucas, goes from, it can be a female, it could be a man, it could be an element,
Right.
it could
Yeah.
be a robot. Uh, is How do you start that process of deciding what is it going to be today? Like, can you walk me
Well,
through that process?
yeah. I mean, I try to keep it like natural. Like I do not sit down much with an idea. Basically, like most of like 99% of these ideas I have on like a snap when I sit down and I start to like process, and they really fit from my mood in the day, and or if I'm like listening to a music, it's almost like a ritual.
Mhm.
And that kind of like happens in the spot because and it happens. I like to draw early after I was sleeping because I feel there's some chemistry from a dreamy place that still resides in your brain, at least for me, so it works well to kind of like harness the sort of like crazy ideas. But they don't have I try to not judge them much like of like, oh, it needs to be this and that. They draw a lot of the emotional aspect a lot because there's some of that I have a hard time to express verbally,
Mhm.
and the drawings and the characters unlock a sort of like language that I can tap better because I'm
Mhm.
a visual person and I can say better things through a character that I could not say with words pretty well, or I would feel uncomfortable or not have the same freedom. That's some sort of like freedom that I like to keep in there. So I'm not like kind of trying to engineer them too much. Like, so I sit down and I have an idea and I let them be whatever they are. And sometimes it can be weird or can be a simple thing or a fun thing, but it can be whatever that moment is kind of like asking for.
Yeah. No, that's I've heard a lot that phrase in the artist community of um you're expressing with your art what you can say in words.
Yeah.
And Royal, is that like, do you feel the same way? I see a lot in your art, um, a lot of influences, like hip hop influences, and I would love to know also from your perspective, do you feel the same way, or how does your creative process differentiate from
Yeah, I
what we've
mean
heard so far?
it's pretty similar, but not as similar. But like once you have the idea and you try to put it on the 3D software or on the sketch or whatever you're using to make the art, it has to click. If the idea is not, you know, subconsciously like cemented in your brain enough, it's not gonna look good. So
Mhm.
just that, and for the most part, it's like that. Just just like working on what do you say it, on on feeling, just like putting stuff in and taking stuff out. You know, like the camera goes down because you know that's how you see it in your head, and the idea you're trying to convey is that. So yeah, I mean, it happens, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's when the pieces don't look good, and you I just stop working on when I have to like really have to work on it to make it look good. That's over engineered, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna come out as good as you would hope.
Lucas, does that happen to you where you ever like stop working on something because it's just like you're feeling that you're forcing the idea?
Well, I have a, like a backwards like feel about it because the artist I was before was somebody that would work on a project for like 6 months and try to create like things that were like too complicated visually, because
Hmm.
I do have I like that sort of aesthetic as well. after I kind of like broke into this new like voice, I found that I needed to get to the core of the idea that I wanted to talk about. So to me, the sketch part of it, it's really where if I get the sketch done right or capturing the idea, whatever I do with that after, it's gonna be good. Even if I overwork it, the structure, the core message I wanted, it's there. So it's just a matter of like how far I want to take it, and it can be the 3D execution, or it could be an animation, or it could be something that evolves into more complex layers. But I feel like I kind of have a sense, because you never finish something, you kind of let it go
Yo.
at some point. That's as an artist, you kind of have to learn that, because I feel like working for stuff for too long, it doesn't reward you as the artist ego that you have, and it makes you frustrated. So I feel keeping like bite-sized rewarding on creation, even if you have to let go of something, it's a better process for you to evolve, because you're like always excited about the next
Mhm.
thing, and you can come back to bigger ones, but not to be locked onto a bigger one and be like dead on that for months.
Yo.
That's something.
Yeah, because
Well,
that
you're
happens
like,
to me. Yeah, that happens to me whenever I work on an animation, because those are like, you want it to be like 2 weeks of work, but it's
Right.
not. It's, a month, 2 months. And then for me, I like to work and finish something, or have it like almost finished in a day. Like work on it the whole day, and then wake up the next day and just, the final touches. Because you want to work on something else, and then every time you work on something new, you learn stuff, and you want to apply that to this idea you used to have that you thought it was not doable, and now you learn. So you're like, okay, I want to finish this already so I can work on the next thing.
yeah.
And then working on animation, you can't do that because you have to finish the animation, and it gets frustrated. I get frustrated a lot.
On the collector side, or actually, let me track it back. Um, have you noticed a tendency of how much do you spend on the piece and the success of it? Like the longer that you work on it, the better it does, or have you find like a pattern in the time that it takes you versus how well it does?
Well,
I never thought about it. What about you, Lucas?
Well, I feel I try to. I think like the beginning interacting with the space, I could feel there was overall collectors more drawn to more complex, um, maybe renders or some pieces that might be perceived as complex. I
Mhm,
particularly my work, and I try to communicate because it's very simplest and minimalist, and
mhm,
people sometimes think that's lack of knowledge of
mhm,
of some technique and stuff, when it's actually the opposite. Like sometimes like not going too complicated on something, it's much more harder. And I feel some collectors, they can see through it, and they can see
mhm,
like a piece needs to grab your heart. Like it doesn't matter how complex or simple it is. I feel it's like looking at it, you can walk into a museum and a grandma's like oil painting like course, like exposition, and you can feel like something is different. It's not because you can like paint well or whatever, but there's something that people can put on a template, or like a medium on a painting or an animation or a 3D thing, that it can be simple or it can be complex, but the artist connect something that makes it different. I feel some people will go with the flow of what it's selling, what is whatever. I feel as an artist, I have already some road of working being done. So the space didn't change how I work. I'm kind of
mhm,
like using it to stream my creativity into it. And it's reacting better after people, I feel like people understand the story, that's not just a silly thing, that there is like a world of like emotions and thoughts and things that are being connected by these different characters. I feel once people understand the story, they perceive it better. I feel as a collection instead of the craft of it, because I know the craft is good for what it is. I just feel sometimes people get hanged up on how busy or how crazy something it is when it's not
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah, I think that that's where I was going. That's what I was going to initially ask Max, of like if he typically uh, get gets like that attraction to the more complex, or if sometimes it's just the emotion that just makes you say, I want to buy this piece. Max, what would you say? What would you say? How would you lean, or how would you balance both things, like analyzing the complexity versus the emotion that causes in you?
I mean, I think for me, it's far more about the emotion and the complexity of it. I feel like I definitely have, um, like we briefly mentioned Jonathan Wolf through DMs, and like I have a piece from him, and it's called "Hello, Mr. Whale." And it's mostly a whale, and it's kind of similar to Untitled Armies actually, in the sense that it's a body of water that he's turned into a being of sorts. And but generally speaking, I'd say like I mean, yeah, it's just plain case that like emotion is what draws me in, at least.
Yeah.
Complexity, anyone can make something as complex as they want to some degree, and right when you get to a point where it's over complexion, makes it just too crowded and um, less intriguing, I guess. But um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes there's some pieces that I'm like, wait, how did they do that? And I
Right.
think those are the complex ones there. I'm like, whoa, that's very intriguing. But then there's also the simple ones that just have this like deep emotion in it. And I'm like, ooh, like that made me feel a certain way, even though it's not this like super complex piece. But I also want to touch on your both of your backgrounds are um you, Lucas, are from Brazil, and Royal, you're from Mexico. Both countries have an amazing and rich culture, and I wonder if that had an impact in you as an artist.
Who was first?
You can go ahead.
Uh, okay. So I don't know how to start, but yeah, I feel like it does. I was raised like a certain way to always be working and always like strive to do better. So I think with every piece, like I always critique it after I'm done in my head, and sometimes like I over critique and and I make myself feel bad for what I did, and I always try to improve and make the little mistakes that I made on the previous piece not even exist, or just improve on that and try try to be like as the best artist that I can be, I guess.
What about you,
Well,
Lucas?
yeah, I think yes, definitely. I feel like and as like having the experience of not living in Brazil for a long time, I can tell like how culture in itself and language, they kind of give you that toolkit where you interact with the world, but not interact, but how you see the world through that culture and through the language. It's how it kind of articulate your ideas and your expression. And each language, each culture kind of benefits the person in a different way. I feel Brazil definitely it's a great place where people are very colorful. There's a lot of amazing artists in there. Like, but the culture itself and the geographic place and whatever it's in there, they gave me something that oh, yeah, when I navigate through things artistically, I can see that, and I can see how like the U.S. culture gave me other things. So
Mhm.
nothing. It's like not that one is better than the other, but they gave you different kind of like faces of this diamond that we are, and kind of like lets you reflect some sort of like specific lighting to you.
Mhm.
And I can feel that. Definitely, I'm very inspired by the place I came from, and it will never go away. But yeah, I definitely see that inspiration.
Yeah, and it's melted with the other places that you've been, I'm sure.
Yeah,
At
and I
least yeah, at
and I
least that
yeah,
happens to me. But go
yeah,
ahead.
and I feel even like when you like even the experience of speaking another language, like
Mhm.
switching the gear when you start to dream in another language. There are like things that happens in a layer of interacting with the world that happens when if some I think everybody should have the chance of going somewhere else and
Mhm.
switch their language or their culture, because it does give you a perspective of like what's inside and how raw it is, and it's
Yeah.
just kind of like filtering through these languages into this experience that we have in a place, you know.
Yeah, it's like unlocking like
Yeah,
a world in
Yeah.
your brain.
yeah,
Sometimes I would think I have like this random memories come back to me of like when I was growing up in Venezuela, and I'm like I like totally forgot about it, and then it comes back, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I should do something with that or similar to that.
Yep.
But yeah, that happens all the time, and I think it's so cool, and I think that's why I would encourage um, everyone. I mean, especially artists to just try to travel or experience other cultures that may unlock that new
yeah.
world of creativity.
Yep.
I think this is a good time to move into the challenge portion of the show. I see Roel already
It's unfair.
stressing out. So we'll meet you. So Max, just to explain it to you. So the audience proposed the artists are proposing, not the artist, someone from Twitter proposed a theme for the show. So the artists are about to sketch out something based on that word, and they will later finish and show it as a finalized piece. So I know you have to hop off, but that's kind of like the challenge that we have as a part of the show that you'll be able to see later on whenever it's live on YouTube. But thank you so much for joining. I know it's last minute, but it's still very nice meeting you. I always try to connect with other collectors and just people that appreciate the NFT space. So thanks for joining, and you'll be able to see the challenge whenever we upload it to YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me, and it was great meeting you, Lucas and Roel.
Yeah, nice to meet you, dude.
Same, Max.
Um, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
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 Tim, how are you? Thank you so much for joining. I know that we met in Miami and Art Basel. And how you been? It feels like it's been a long time, but it really hasn't. It was like a month and a half ago.
Yeah, it feels like ages ago in the NFT world, right? Things move so fast. But yeah, I've been good. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me here. Really excited to, join this wonderful show.
Yeah, no. And for those who don't know, who Tim is and Nifty Royale, can you give us a little bit of your background and then how did you jump in the Web3 space?
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So for myself, I've been in the Web3 space for around 2 years now, since 2020. My first foray into the Web3 world was with Dapper Labs, where I worked as a product manager on the Flow blockchain team. That was a really good experience. Right when the whole NFT market was kind of really heating up in 2020. I got a chance to kind of see the tremendous growth of NBA Top Shot while I was working there. And from there, I knew I made the right choice to, move into Web3. After my contract ended with Nifty Royale, I mean, with Dapper Labs, I wanted to continue in the space. And while I was at Dapper Labs, I was mostly helping people build dApps. and I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
transition and kind of adapt myself. So in early 2021 last year, I ended up joining a hackathon, which was the Chainlink hackathon, where we built out Nifty Royale. And what Nifty Royale is it's meant to be a gamified NFT platform to help distribute one of one NFTs from various artists.
Okay.
Traditionally, as we see in the space, a lot of these one of one art are distributed through auctions, which are great
Mm-hmm.
for like price discovery and potentially giving an artist a huge payout.
Mm-hmm.
However, what we see with these auctions are that they're not very inclusive for all collectors. Only those with a lot of money tend to be the ones that are able to participate in auctions, and thus are the ones who are able to collect the one pieces from these artists.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do on Nifty Royale is to make the collection of these one of one very highly sought after NFTs to be accessible to all collectors. And how we do that on our platform is we'll partner up with an artist to do a curated drop on our platform, Nifty Royale. When an
Mm-hmm.
artist does a drop with us, we'll first sell one of their pieces with multiple editions at a lower fixed price. This
Mm-hmm.
is meant to encourage a lot of collectors to come in and actually purchase and own a piece from that artist.
Okay.
When they purchase the piece, not only do they get to keep that wonderful artwork, they will also be entered into a on-chain battle royale game where one by one the NFTs that have been purchased will be randomly eliminated. Now, when the NFTs are eliminated, they're simply just out of the running for the prize. They still get to retain their NFTs. And at the end of this battle royale, only one NFT will remain, and they will be crowned the winner and thus be awarded a one of one piece of NFT from that same artist. In this
Gotcha.
model, the artists are still, getting paid because essentially instead of getting paid from one person, we've pooled together all the money that the collection sales have made, and this is now, a way more inclusive way for people to then own this one of one NFT because you didn't need to start off with like a huge budget. You just need to simply have enough funds to purchase that initial piece.
Yeah. That's a really cool concept. How did you initially like thought of this, and what is your next what is your main goal in 2022?
Yeah. So how we originally thought about this was actually in the hackathon we got put in touch with like a really big NFT artist. His name is Lush Sucks. He's a really
Mhm.
famous Australian street artist, and he had this idea that he wanted to do something with his drops that was unique in a way. And his art traditionally have been selling for very high amounts of money. So a lot of
Mhm.
collectors felt like his collections are out of reach. So
Right.
this is meant to be when we talked to him, he originally wanted to do like an idea with burning. Um, but we kind of thought, hey, it wouldn't be fair to collectors if they purchase a piece and then we just burned it. So that's why we then kind of worked together to say, hey, how can we come up with something that's fun, that's gonna allow you to, essentially give out one of your very valuable pieces to collectors while
Mhm.
doing something fun in the process. So this is where we came up with the whole idea of Nifty Royale.
That's awesome.
In terms of what we would like to see in 2022 with Nifty Royale, I really want to just expand. I think what Nifty Royale would be good to do is to expand the collectors of NFTs to the digital art space. I think, at the start of this year, we've been seeing a huge boom in like the PFP collectible project,
Yeah.
where like people are just drawn and a lot of newcomers are coming into the space drawn to those projects. But it seems like they're kind of missing out on this whole other aspect, which is like we have some amazing digital artists who are putting out amazing work, and perhaps their work aren't being recognized because people, first of all, they don't get the eyes, or they don't get the people don't feel like they can obtain them, so then they kind of just get lost in terms of how everything is in the NFT world. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to help, bridge that gap for like new collectors to come into the space and then be able to also collect these amazing digital art, not feel like they can only collect, the PFP projects that have like really low pricing and it's easily accessible. So
Yeah.
this is meant to be a way to give people access to digital art at a more accessible way.
Perfect. Thank you so much for explaining it. I think it's a really, really cool idea. And I think that the fact that you collaborated with an artist to come up with a solution that helps the artist and the collector, it's a really, really unique thing to see out in the market. And thank you for coming. And how can people find you on Twitter?
Yeah, so our Twitter is just Nifty Royale. That's our Twitter. If you want to find me, my Twitter name is Timmy Mitt. So Timmy spelled forwards and backwards, 91. I don't have a lot of followers, so feel free to follow me. I'll start. I need to get into the Twitter game better. I know in the NFT space it's pretty important.
Yes. No, but thank you and best of luck this year with everything that you're working on. And if you are an artist and are interested in get in contact with Tim, that's how you find him at Nifty Royale on Twitter. So thank you, Tim. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Lex.
Okay, so now we're back for the challenge portion of the Joy of NFTs. So how this works is that someone from Twitter propose a word, and you guys are going to have 10 minutes to do a sketch based on this word. So the person who submitted the word for today was Add Woodwalker X. So add Woodwalker X. Keep your DMs open for more details later on. And the word that he proposed was dream. So I am going to set the alarm here, timer. So if you guys want to start opening your your thing, so you're ready. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. You can get started.
Wow. Okay. 10 minutes.
10 minutes. You can cook a whole meal in 10 minutes. No, just kidding. Maybe ramen. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Is this, I mean, I know that Lucas, you usually do it on paper because
Yeah.
I've seen your sketch versus render. But have you ever used your iPad to start the sketch process?
Well, I use when I have to do some like general like color for other characters that are not mine. Like it's a good like tool for exploring, I feel, because you can undo and like do that kind of like thing. I usually like to do in paper because it feels more organic to me, to the touch. But it's like, and it's more, I think I have more pleasure about the physicality of it. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not like I can like express that in the ideas in the iPad as well. It's not somewhere I will go for my usual character like creation like. But I like the fact that you can record the time lapse of it and see like um, what it will be, you know.
For sure. Royal, what software are you using?
Blender. It's a free 3D software. That's what I use most of the time.
Cool. Do you usually start it on Blender or do you use paper?
Yeah, I rarely sketch. I haven't drawn in like 2 years. I lost the poor ability I had.
But now you're a Blender master.
I hope I am.
This, I mean, have you ever had a challenge like this when you have like, okay, I'm gonna do it in this amount of time, or
No,
or is this the first time?
this is the first time. 10 minutes. That's literally what it takes to start setting up the scene.
So the scene, okay, so you already have kind of like a concept. What are you thinking of making?
Oh. Okay, so I do. So I think I'm gonna do like a little room, little window, showing like a nice view, probably like snow, dark, and then put like a nice bed, the bear dreaming, and then probably like have it here, have like a cloud, and then it like growing all the way, and then that just turns into the actual scene, what the bear is actually dreaming. So I'll basically do two scenes in one. So I don't think I can do that in 10 minutes, but we can finish it after, right?
Yes. Of
Okay,
course.
yeah. So I was like, there's no way I'll get anything looking good in this
No,
little time.
I love that you already have it in your mind though. But this is like chef master. This is like, you know how they're screaming at you, like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? Make sure it doesn't burn. Blah blah blah. And you have uh what is it? Ramsey, Chef Ramsey, like screaming in your ear.
Yeah.
At least I'm being nice.
Yeah.
Lucas, what are you thinking of going with your piece?
Well, I think once I heard the word dream, like I was something snapping around. I could see stuff like about 2 layers of you're in the ground, and then there's a layer where you're like floating. So that was kind of like a raw feeling I got. Then after looking more at it, I could see like the face being like a kite, sort of like flying out of the head, sort of like going upwards and sort of like flying. And I thought it was interesting to kind of think that the core that's like holding the kite, it's coming inside of you and sort of like being controlled by the heart and by yourself, like pulling that thing, that little thread, silver lining thing that's in there, and you're like pulling in your dream. It's that sort of very fragile thing it's in the
Wow.
air, and it's being held by this very thin line, and
That's coming through
that's
the heart that you
yeah,
have it. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, this this is what I'm talking about. The things that that you create are so emotional. That gave me like goosebumps. And I know like already kind of how it's gonna turn out based on how you typically create
yeah, yeah.
it.
I do. That's the thing that's interesting because I'm explaining something I felt when I heard the word, and
Mm-hmm.
that feeling once I start to translate into a doodle or a sketch, that's when I'm taking more conscious decisions of like kind of metaphors I'm using for that feeling, and sort of
Mm-hmm.
like the general raw thought it's in here, but then I started to kind of put myself more into it and be like taking decisions of like aesthetic things that I like and putting in here and there to kind of create the character itself. But the mechanism of trying to compile a story and a whole thing in one frame and one character, that's kind of like what I really like the challenge of that, you know.
Yeah. What software do you use for like once you actually start working on the 3D?
Cinema for the 3D,
Mm-hmm.
I use Cinema 4D. I was like, I learned 3D like 4 years ago, so I didn't know any 3D. So I learned basically with Cinema because it's a drug friendly sort of thing, entry point on to 3D. I think for me because it was easy to use, you know. So that's kind of my tool.
Yeah. Do you guys, Rel, do you use any other tools as an artist?
Photoshop, for sure you need it. Well, not for sure, right? But it helps a lot if you have it.
How would you implement like on Blender? Like how do you use Blender versus Photoshop?
I don't know. I barely know how to use Photoshop, and I kind of know what I'm doing here a little bit.
So other artists can be inspired by that. You don't need to know Photoshop to be a successful 3D
Yeah.
artist.
I barely started using it like halfway through the year last year. So
You
like,
guys,
I need it.
you guys have a minute and 50 seconds.
Oh no way! What? So yeah, I'm gonna get.
Are you making grass? What is the bottom part?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
No, I'm making like a little room still.
Oh, so those are like the tiles of the room.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I want it to be like to have a depth, not just there.
Yeah.
Why is it not?
Lucas is already putting like shadows on his. Oh, you can't see each other's, right?
No.
We can.
No, you
I
cannot.
can see his. I'm looking
Oh,
at
you
his
can?
right now.
That's cool.
I want it to look like a, like Zelda kind of room.
Yeah, for a second I thought you were going to do like put the bed outside. Like I thought you were making
Oh,
grass
that would be cool
first.
too. I'm gonna have to
Watch,
copy you.
watch him change the whole concept
Yeah,
after this.
that was actually my idea. That was my first idea. Nah, but now I gotta make this look decent.
You guys have 20 seconds left. Let's see. Have you ever watched another artist like create live?
Oh, probably on YouTube.
Yeah, don't remember, but probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the time is up. Pencils down.
Whoa.
Pencils down.
Don't look at mine, guys.
Mouse down too. Wow, that's really, really cool. And I can already see, well, I asked you, so I can already see, Ro, like the world that you're going to create just based on your description. And I'm really excited to see the outcome. With you, Lucas, I like, this is just like another one of your sketch versus render that you are a master of. So this is just so impressive to see you do it live. And so simple. It came to you like very, 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 very fast. So I'm really, really impressed. What would you say for a new artist coming in? Like if you had to just tell them one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to not perceive the holy grail of style and just do the fuck they want to do, because pursuing style, it's just gonna lead you to failure because you're gonna try to be somebody else. Just allow yourself to be whatever you want to be, and in the process of doing it, with time, whatever you leave behind will be your style. So don't worry about it.
I love that.
Yep.
Royale, it's your turn. You gotta give one piece of advice.
Don't give yourself 10 minutes and expect to be like the best thing you've ever made. No, I mean, I think just like stick to it. Like, I mean, if you're not good right now, you'll be good if you keep at it. That's just a fact.
Yeah. What is this? The saying, Rome wasn't built in one day.
Yep.
Well, I love that. Thank you both for being part of the joy of NFTs. I can't wait to see the final outcome of this amazing pieces. And thank you for being a part of the community and supporting other artists. You both are definitely an inspiration. So thank you so much. And I hope I see you guys on the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.